everyone. Honestly, that sounds like summer, and it is summer outside. But over 200 of you are joining us this evening for a fabulous online launch with Matt Goodfellow and Todd Stanton to celebrate the first year. Fantastic for joining us because you have been travelling around the country a lot, including today.
I've been away. I've been working at a school in Leicester today. I've just managed to get off the train in time. So thanks very much for hosting, Nikki.
So let's start to think about the first year then. It's seamless, the connection between the final year and the first year. It's almost as though no time has passed at all between the end of one book and the beginning of the other. Was that because you wrote both books straight off?
That was an interesting decision to make as to how we were going to do it. And once a decision was made that yes, there was a story to be told. I mean, I've talked about this quite a bit. There was a discussion with Charlotte and the Otto Barry team about if we were going to do a second story, we were going to follow Nate up to high school. It had to be better. It had to be different, which I think it is. But also, it was an interesting discussion. How were we going to start it? What were we going to do? And really, that decision was my decision, that I wanted us back in that final moment of the first book to start the second book, just to refresh people's memories, really, and give that sort of element of drama, I suppose, at the start of it.
So we leave the final year with optimism and the expectation of good things to come. Joe's going to come back later to talk about his illustration, but I thought I would show the first illustration in the book there, which is actually from the very beginning. What does this picture say to you?
First of all, we've been so lucky to have Joe on board. Joe's illustrations, Joe's a very sensitive guy, and his illustrations are incredibly sensitive to the story. I think that Joe gets the whole thing straight away, and I just love the way that he brings Nate to life. I like the way he's looking back here. What he's looking at, I don't know. That's for you to decide.
So it's like the final year. It's a book that's divided into sections. The second section, again mirroring the final year, is this summer period, these sort of halcyon days. Could you talk to us a little bit about the summer and what this summer, this kind of magical moment between primary and secondary school, what that's like for Nate and his pals?
The whole family's had a pretty tough year, and I was a year six teacher for a long time, as you know, and the emotions of young people moving from primary to secondary school, that 6 weeks in between, I think it's full of such a wide range of emotions. And Nate goes off exploring and goes off with Caleb and his relationships with Caleb and PS. And if you remember, his relationship with PS had been fractured at one point, and this summertime is, I think, really cementing the fact that these guys are a little unit moving forward together. They know they're going to be in the same form, but they're all full of different anxieties and stuff. Yeah, they're presenting as a little unit moving forward and trying to enjoy the summer. But, Nate is really, after the chaos of the previous year, I think he's just trying to keep his head above water a little bit, like we all are. The summer gives him an opportunity to get out there and see what's going on.
There's some beautiful poems in this section, and I am going to ask you to read quite a bit through the evening, and I wondered whether you would start for us with Some Thoughts I Note Down, which is on page 89, and perhaps read right through to page 91.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Some thoughts I note down. We leave bits of ourselves with whoever we meet. Not on purpose, we just do. Sometimes it's such a tiny flake that the person we've left it with maybe forgets about it for years. And then one day it's floating in a stream of sunlight right in front of them. And they're like, yeah, wow. Other times it's a bigger piece, ones that they have to carry whether they like it or not. And then you're always there, like that bit of you's traced over the top of them or something. Morning poem. I dream I'm a swift, screaming high and free. The curve of the world belongs only to me. But something happens to the wings of my mind, and I'm falling towards some place I can't find. One evening, just as it's getting dark, I've got my forehead pressed against the window, watching a swift dart between pale early stars, pulling night across the sky.
I'm going to show Joe's picture that goes with that. So there we are. That's the picture that accompanies the poems that you've read to us. And I suppose one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is this movement between these heightened poetic moments and then bits of the story that are written in the vernacular. And it seems to me that you move between these two quite a bit in this story.
Yeah, I like doing it. I like one of the beautiful things about poetry for me is capturing patterns of speech. And the way that people talk is beautiful, and we all talk differently. The way we phrase things is different. Our accents, our dialects are different. Nate's a young person learning, discovering the way his brain is wired. He's discovering how he wants to articulate himself. And really, that just gives me the opportunity to play with what I want to say through Nate's voice. And some of that is just conversations, discussions. There's other times we're getting more poetic, but then it allows us to find the poeticism within the normality of our speech patterns. So it's a really interesting thing to be able to play around with, because I think at times, the most humdrum little bits of conversations can actually be the most beautifully poetic. And it just gives us this opportunity to play with that idea, that people's concept of, well, what is poetry? Because we know how nervous people can feel about poetry. So I'm just trying to play with a bit of stuff, really. And it's a bit of fun. It's play, and poetry should be play.
So we move on to part 3 of the first year, which is the start of year 7. And what we see is this close bond between PS, Caleb, and Nate continuing. But things are definitely shaken up a bit with the introduction of Moona. And the
Yeah.
relationship between Nate and Moona, for me, was a little reminiscent of Davy and Mina in Skellig, which of course we know is referenced in the final year. And of course, our name seems to point to that a little bit too. Perhaps you could tell us something about that from your perspective.
Michael and Mina in Skellig is a really interesting one, because Mina brings this, she opens a whole world to Michael of art and poetry and life. There's echoes of that within Muna's name. The name Muna's cropped up quite a lot. There's a band that I like that are called Muna. I've worked with various teachers called Muna. What you make of that's up to you. But certainly what Muna does bring, hopefully, is a sort of a different feel to the friendship. She adds an extra element. She adds, well, as we learn as we're moving through it, Muna is dealing with grief. I wanted Muna to be very strong and brave and powerful, to sort of remind Nate of what he's been through. And she's sort of, further along on the journey of grief, and has had a very profound loss in her life. And again, it's just the idea of the struggles that we have in life, and young people do have those struggles. She adds an awful lot. I said at the launch in London the other day, I've got an awful lot of time for what Muna brings to this story, and the power, I think, that she brings to this.
Maybe just say a little bit more about the dynamic between the 4 of them, how Caleb perhaps also adds something to this community of young people.
Yeah, well, I did at one point. I talk about them. Nate realizing that they're like 4 corners of a square. They are like all of us, struggling for handholds in life, and they find this union. We've got a very effervescent character in PS that I think carries with him the sort of guilt of what happened in at primary school. But Caleb is a different character again. Caleb has his own issues, as we know. He's quite a gentle character. He's into Swifts like Nate is. He likes to look at stuff, and they all bring something different, I think. But as the book progresses, I think that friendship deepens. And one of my favourite bits of the book is towards the end. There's a few points where the 4 of them they just walk together in silence, and they don't need to say anything to each other. They've worked out. So they're very lucky that they've found each other at this point, and they're lucky that they're able to support each other in what is a pretty terrifying time for a lot of people, but an exciting time, a time where we're beginning to learn to explore who we are as people, and they're beginning to push the boundaries of themselves. They're beginning to make that move into that twilight world between child and young adult. They're moving into it. There's responsibilities and stuff, and
This is also a novel of contrasts, comparisons and contrasts, I think. It's unsurprising that we start comparing City Academy with Poppyfield Primary. There was one quotation where it says, "All they care about is what we know. They ain't interested in knowing us." I do think that you're very balanced in your portrayal, particularly when it comes to individual teachers rather than the system. But okay, I'm going to ask you an impossible question, Matt. If you were granted the role of Minister of Education and had the powers to implement any new policy of your choice, what changes would you want to make?
Oh, you're opening Pandora's box, is it? Well, I think the first thing to say is I've not been a teacher for a long time, so I can give my opinions on stuff, but I'm not a full-time class teacher anymore. I think what I'd like to see is a system where class teachers have more autonomy within the classroom to make curricular decisions based on the young people in front of them. I would like teachers to be involved in that. I would like state teachers to be involved in those discussions. I think there's so many interesting things to discuss between primary and secondary. In my opinion, teachers are forced to teach writing in a way both at primary school and high school, which isn't the way writers write. The pressures of exams push teachers and push SLTs into getting young people to write in a way which is just a set of what did I used to call it when I was toolkits, and also we don't tell young people the truth about the differences between the two. When I was a year 6 teacher, the pressure on me to get young people to write in a certain way, knowing full well that when they went to high school, the pressures on the high school teachers to write in a different way. And it wasn't clear for those young people. And I think we put our young people and our teachers in such a difficult position. So there needs to be a discussion around the way we're asking young people to write and how that, I believe, means that for generation upon generation, young people are pumped out of high school at 16, disenfranchised by poetry. What is it to do with the GCSE poetry anthology? What is it to do with how teachers are forced to teach? If you're a young person that's kind of gets the idea that poetry is a puzzle that needs solving, I've got a 19-year-old son. He left high school at 16 thinking poetry was nothing to do with his life. And the first thing Will would do is put headphones on when he walked out of school and press play on the music that he listened to. And the music that's always moved Will is rap and grime, which is young people talking in regional accents about their life. And the school system, the idea of a standard spoken English, it's just a discussion I think that needs opening. Why are we asking people in an increasingly diverse England, this beautifully diverse England, why are we expecting state teachers to demonstrate standard spoken English? The English language is pieced together from so many different elements over thousands of years. And it's only the past 200 years that English society has thought that it thought that it owns language. So there's so much to discuss around the way we teach writing, the way we teach reading. And I just think that there's so many discussions to have. Poetry, I believe, is currently in the education system, the current education system, the state education system. And of course, that's a different discussion to have. Poetry becomes the only space for teachers to facilitate creativity and writing with autonomy, in my opinion. When I trained to be a teacher, Nikki, I had no training on poetry whatsoever. A lot of us are leaving high school at 16 disenfranchised by poetry. We bear our scars. So there's so many things to think about. And so I know I went on a bit there, but you did ask.
I did. Well, of course, in City Academy, the friends don't get away from Turner. He's still there. We have a question actually from Maddie, who is asking you, Matt, whether you would ever consider writing Turner's story.
Well, a few people have asked me that. Who knows? I always say never, Nikki. But I think Turner is a fascinating one. And I hope that within the stories, what we're trying to do is present a story and just allow it to happen and allow people to make their own judgments. So the character of Turner is a fascinating one because he is a product of his upbringing. I taught Turners, I taught Nates, so it's a fascinating thing.
So I'm moving on to part 4, which is called New Beginnings. It's the start of the January term. And in this section, we get coming through quite a lot of understanding about the adult perspectives. We get to know more about Mum. We get to know a lot more about Auntie San. And of course, we get to know about Nate's dad as well. You talked about that twilight, moving from childhood into adolescence. And indeed, as children move from childhood into adolescence, they become increasingly aware, I think, of their parents as people who are separate from themselves. And so I suppose, in a way, this deeper understanding of Mum and Auntie San is also part of Nate's awareness as well. I particularly appreciated the peeling back of the layers of those characters. When you started to write the first year, did that just emerge naturally as part of the writing, or did you set out at the outset knowing that you wanted to delve more into the adult characters?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was what we wanted to do. And the final year is quite a male-heavy book. We don't even learn that Nate's mum is called Gemma in the first book. And the first year is about female power, is about Nate understanding who he is and where he's from and where he gets certain things from. So it was a really clear thing that we wanted to talk about, and Muna adds to that conversation. Gemma, Nate's mum, has been a fascinating one because as I go about on my travels, I've met a lot of people that are very angry with her. And I think Gemma is presented in a way that allows people to have their own opinion. I think she's doing the best that she can. The main thrust of the book is all about hope and that life is difficult. And young people at one point, like you're alluding to, they realise that actually the adults in their life are fallible and they can struggle as well. What we were trying to do at every point of these two books was to provide an authenticity and to be honest about life. The backstory to Auntie San and to Gemma, I think is really important. To Nate's, again, that where are my handholds in life?
There's a lot of warmth there, actually. You talk about hope, but also a great deal of warmth that comes through. I wondered if I could ask you to read a bit more. Pages 241 to 253, it's where we get a sense of Nate's dad, Nick, coming back on the scene and the reaction to that from Mum and Gemma and Auntie San.
Yeah, no worries. Mum bundles in with shopping bags and Dill, who's tearing about the place, jumping on me, smearing me with sweat. Then he's pestering Mum for food, so I go get him a snack, but he's already gone. Breathe, Nate, breathe. And as Mum's putting the shopping away, I start, Mum, I need to talk to you. Yeah, sure, Nate, just give me 1 sec. She drops a tin of beans and swears, Dylan, stop kicking that ball around with you, love. You're going to break whatever ain't broke already. Come and get your crisps off, Nate. He's in and out like a whirlwind. Mum, it's important. Right, sorry, Nate, love, go for it. I'm just about to open my mouth when Mum's phone starts ringing. For God's sake, Nate, I can't get a minute. Hang on, Nate. She answers it and crouches to rescue the tin of beans. Hello? She freezes. Yeah, speaking. Who's this? And as the penny drops, the phone drops too. She turns and looks at me, steadies herself with a hand on the worktop. Jesus, Nate. Mum, it's my dad, innit? Her mouth ain't working, but her tears let me know it's him. I grab her in a big hug and she's moaning, oh, Jesus, Nate. Oh, Jesus. He's back. And we're swimming through air, trying to hold on tight to the side. The phone keeps ringing and eventually she realises she's gonna have to answer. She listens and nods. Doesn't say much, but when she does speak, she sounds as small as she did last year in the hospital. Okay. Bye. When Jax gets in, he knows something's kicked off because Mum's properly over the top, busying around him and fussing, asking loads of questions but not listening to any of the answers. And when he looks at me, he can see I'm gone. I'm not there. So he retreats upstairs and takes Dill with him. And all there is now is the sound of 2 heartbeats. Auntie San gets round proper quick and her eyes are wild. What did he say, Gemma? He said he wants to see Nate. How do you even get your number? No idea, Sam. Her eyes get wilder. The absolute cheek of him. There's no way, absolutely no way, he's just going to swagger back in here like he's risen from the dead or something. She passes Mum a fag and lights one for herself. I mean, she takes a deep drag. Who does he think he is? We're just getting settled back after all Dill went through, and now this. No way, Gemma, no way. I hope you told him where to get off. Mum ain't talking. Nothing. Mum. Yes, love. I want to see him. Sam coughs and splutters. Natey, what? There's no way your mum wants him anywhere near you. Mum's voice is quiet. Sam, he's his dad. I know that, Gemma, but he can't just turn up like this, you know. He can't. But he did, Sam. He did. Mum, I want to see him. Auntie Sam's lost it. Veins sticky right out her neck. Natey, you must be mad. You want to see some muppet who's never been here for you? Sam, let him speak. Listen, Mum, I say. I knew he was back. I've seen him. Sam bangs the table. What? Sam, please. He was there at the park on the last day at Poppyfield, I swear, but I thought I was imagining it or something. Sam folds her arms and huffs. And I reckon he's been knocking around since then, waiting, because I swear I've seen him in town and that over summer, and then today he was at school. And the coat, Mum, it's from him. I'm expecting Mum to blow up at any point, but she don't. Sam's having to strain every last bit of herself not to explode. But Mum, it's like she's gone somewhere within herself. He came over and tried to talk to me, but I just got on my toes because it frightened me. But the way I see it, if he's here, let's see what he's got to say, you know?
Thanks so much for reading that bit. And of course, Nick, Nate's dad, does come back into his life. We've got a comment here. It says, I'm a massive Gemma fan. I'm about 2/3 of the way through reading. The depiction of her conflict about Nate spending time with his dad is very moving. And she wonders whether Nick might be based on a person or people that are close to you.
Well, I mean, like my stock answer for this, Nikki, is, everything I write is a combination of three things. My life, and you'll have heard me talk about this, my life, lives that I've seen, and stuff that I make up. And Nick is bits of people that I know. I suppose Nick is bits of me, bits of other people, and bits of stuff that I've made up, just like everybody. But I hope all of the characters, because of that, I hope, again, there is that authenticity to him. And that honesty about life, and about life is a struggle. And here we see, hopefully played out, is a family living life and dealing with what's thrown at them, just like we all are.
Nick arrives on the scene by buying a coat for Nate, even though he doesn't know that that's where it's come from. And he later takes him on a trip to Blackpool. Now, there's been a trip to Blackpool earlier in the book as well, where Gemma wins on the bingo and takes the family off for a trip to Blackpool. And there's quite a contrast between those two scenes. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
There is a contrast, yeah. And again, that's for, I suppose, the reader to decide why that contrast is there, but there certainly is a contrast. I think the first Blackpool trip is in the summer. And what we tried really hard to do is the books should be multi-layered. So if you read the Blackpool poem in the summer and you think of maybe other poems from the final year, they should look the same in some way, but very different for very different reasons. These hopefully are thought out bits of the book. Hopefully the idea is that you can read the books a number of times, and each time you get something different. There's little layers to it that we worked really hard at to put in place. And certainly, yeah, there are certainly differences between those two Blackpool trips, but I'll leave it up to you guys to decide why that is.
I'm moving on really to part 5, which is called The Last Swift of Summer. This is when Nate and Nick are developing a relationship. He's visiting his dad more frequently. The swift, obviously, is a bird that is present throughout the story. And Nick says to Nate, perhaps a little bit of foreshadowing, last to arrive and first to leave, Nate. I like that. So freedom, it's a word and a concept that is repeated throughout the story. And I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about how that idea of freedom relates to Nate and how it relates to Nick.
It's an interesting idea to play around with through the narrative, because I think freedom means different things to lots of different people. And, you know, I think Gemma is really perceptive when she goes to meet Nick and expects to have certain feelings, but she doesn't. And she makes a comment about Nick that's something like, you know, he talks about being free, but he's the most chained up I've ever seen a human being, or something like that. And I think again that's just this exploration of, I'm not trying to be pompous when I say like the human condition, but really what I'm trying to unpack in my head, I suppose, via these stories is that difference. And I think it comes back to that thing about life being a journey and a struggle. And I'm just trying to explore that really. And these characters give me license to do it.
Just one more reading, then we're going to bring Joe in and have a look at some of the illustration with him. Nate's feelings are naturally complex. In fact, after he first meets his dad, his dreams are not the most positive dreams that you might expect him to have. From this section, The Last Swift of Summer, there are two poems next to each other, When I'm With Dad and When I'm Not With Dad. Pages 446 and 447. I wondered if you could read those for us.
Yeah, of course. When I'm with Dad, it's great. He's funny and teaches me how to cook stuff he's learned from his travels. Proper spicy stuff, man, that blows my mouth apart. Sends me swigging milk and spitting it out all over the place because we're laughing so much. We play cards. Sometimes we put tunes on and he gets his paints out. And I sit on the sofa with my ideas book and we create. When I'm not with Dad, he's proper difficult to get hold of. He either leaves messages on read or doesn't appear online at all for days on end. He's like a ghost or something. Then he'll phone out of the blue, telling me he's been away working and it's difficult to answer and stuff.
Let's have a look at some pictures, because I asked if you would choose a few pictures. You sent 3 across, and I thought we could talk about those and also where they fit in the story. Joe, tell us why you chose it.
I think from the previous book, I always looked for things in the story where I could see a visual happening, because I really love the motif of the beast and how his relationship changed. And then I noticed in this one there was this concept of a wilderness and these kind of forests and trees that were kind of taking over his mind and stopping him from being able to kind of think properly. And I really love that idea of being able to show that. So it was just seemed like a kind of obvious choice for me.
It's a poem in a picture, this one. You know, there are different kinds of images. Some of them are a very context setting, but this one feels like a poem in a picture.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful illustration. Joe is widely heralded because he is an incredible illustrator. And the great thing for me is as a poet, you know, and I'm quite a sensitive guy as well, hopefully. And Joe treats the words and Joe treats the family with such respect. You know, some illustrations sit alongside the work, and we've just been very lucky, you know, that Joe's illustrations have the capacity to elevate stuff and add these extra dimensions. And this is one of them.
Let's have a look at the second one that you sent. This is Nick and Nate. This looks like a really idyllic summer day. Tell us a bit about the context where this fits in the story, Joe.
Well, this is when he reunited with his father. So I wanted to show this illustration because it really reminded me of I had a very charismatic absentee dad as well. And I think something that this story showed so accurately was that feeling of I suddenly had this character that would appear in my life occasionally that could make kind of anything fun. They just had this personality where, yeah, I think at this moment they're kind of sitting on these garden chairs, throwing pegs into a plastic bucket. But you know, through the lens of your child, when it's, you know, this figure that you're already looking up to so much and kind of seems quite magical to you, it can kind of take on this whole other kind of meaning in your life, you know, mundane things. I get even that poem that Matt was talking about earlier, you know, the drinking the milk and all that kind of stuff. It really resonated with me. So yeah, it was really, you know, a nice therapy session to maybe illustrate some of these pictures.
I have to say, from a composition point of view, the fact that we don't see either of their expressions, we see their back views, and we just get a sense of how they're feeling from their body language, but also the kind of pointing upwards to those two swifts in the sky. that perfect sort of balance in that composition. I really appreciated it. Should we have a look at the third one that you sent me, which is, it's got to have a beast in it, hasn't it? Yes. The beast is still here, everybody.
It was one of those things where I loved the way that their relationship progressed in the first book. I wanted to find at least one opportunity to show this relationship was still kind of progressing. And I love that Matt included this allusion to it at the end, especially because it really showed how Nate has kind of found this relationship with the anger that he was struggling with so much, where it's this kind of thing, it's an emotion that he can call upon if he feels like he needs it. You know, at this point he's feeling very distraught and kind of lost, and the beast kind of comes to him, and he can say in that moment, you know, it's okay, you know, I'm dealing with it in a new way, you know, maybe I might need you in the future, and who knows how that relationship will progress. But I just thought it was a really nice way of showing that he had the ability now to be able to kind of control that side of himself.
Matt, would it be unrealistic for the beast to go away for good?
I don't really know. Does anybody's beast ever go away? The stuff that Joe's talking about, that's why we're so lucky to have Joe on board with it, that he can take poems and have the capacity to think them out and show that. Because, I mean, I wrote it and like these bringing extra elements to me there. When you look at the beast there, what he was saying, it's fun. That's really interesting stuff to think about.
Matt, could you perhaps read us another bit? It's going back. It's after Nate has met his dad, I think for the first time, and he's dreaming. It's called That Night, page 369, and I wake up sobbing.
That night, I have this mad dream where I'm in this labyrinth thing, like we've been learning about in English. Stars blazing above me, and there's something following me. I can hear it breathing behind me every corner that I turn. Eventually, I get to a dead end, and I'm shouting, and it's coming closer and closer. And it's not one thing, it's loads of them, a mob of them, and they're all on fire. Turner and his brothers, like massive flaming horns. Dylan's doctors, Mr. Peters, and the heat is burning my skin, and I'm backing away, but there's nowhere to go, and I can't take the heat. It hurts so much, and then a bird appears. A gigantic, swooping swift reaches out a curved wing, and I grab on tight, up, up, and away into the night.
I mean, I asked you to read that bit because it's quite unexpected, or it was for me quite unexpected that was in his subconscious after he had met his dad for the first time. You might have expected the dream to be more utopian, maybe.
The thing with dreams is we don't know what's going on. And really, like I had dreams in real life, I never really know what's going on in real life anyway. So the dreams probably give you more of a capacity to put things into Nate's mouth than he would articulate in a day situation. Do you see what I mean? Because I mean, I woke up from a dream this morning and I had no idea what was going on, but it was so vivid. Nate, I think he's just attuned. You know, he's learned through the first book that those thoughts and feelings and ideas he has, they matter. They count for something, and his brain is wired in a way that means he wants to articulate that. So he's somebody that these dreams, he's open to them, I think. Again, as a creative, it lets you sort of explore different things within it. So the dream stuff is fascinating, I think.
Definitely. We have got some more questions. I'm going to close the Q&A now, so we've got two more questions, and that's all that we've got time for. So the next one is from Nicolette, and Nicolette says, are these books making readers out of non-readers in your experience? So you're in schools quite a lot. Are you getting a sense that it's making readers out of non-readers?
I don't know. That's not for me to say. But what I certainly can say is that a lot of young people that I speak to see something within the books, whether that's the way the characters speak, the lives that they live in. The book, certainly the final year, And what the feedback I'm getting from young people on the ground in the first year is that these books move them and affect them in some way. And the ability to do that is an incredible thing to be able to do.
The final question is, how would you feel if the final year or the first year ended up on the curriculum?
I don't know. I don't know. Certainly the final year and the first year, they kicked the door open for discussions. You know, Mr. Joshua was able to say bits of the stuff that I said. Nate's story spreading so far already has been a beautiful thing to see. So anything that opens up a discussion about the English education system and about young people's place within it, I think is a good thing.
It's been absolutely fascinating talking to both of you. Matt, thank you for such honest and candid replies. I always feel not only is your writing authentic, but your responses are to questions are authentic as well. I don't know whether you had something that you would like to read us out of the event, if there's a bit that you would like to choose.
Yeah, of course, Nikki. Thanks very much. It's been great to be here. I'm going to read you a poem right from the start of the book, which is Nate talking at Dylan. And it's on page 27, and it's called I Was Scared, Natey. I was scared, Natey. I know you were, Dill. We all were. But listen, I'm always with you, yeah? I'll always be here for you. I'll never, ever lose you again, right? And he kisses me all over my face till I don't know what sweat or tears or spit. Love you, Dylan. Love you, Natey. The bestest big brother in the world. Now have this. He points his finger, fires a spider web, and charges back upstairs. Thanks very much.